Melakim 1, 1 Kings chapter 6. And it came to be in the 480th year after the children of Israel had come out of the land of Mitzrayim, in the 4th year of the reign of Shelomoh over Israel, in the month of Zi, which is the 2nd month, that he began to build the house of Yahweh. And the house which sovereign Shelomoh built for Yahweh was 60 amah long, and 20 wide, and 30 amah high. And the porch at the front of the heikel of the house was 20 amah long, according to the breadth of the house, and its width 10 amah from the front of the house. And he made for the house windows with narrowed frames. And against the wall of the house he built rooms all around the walls of the house, all around the heikel and the speaking place. Thus he made side rooms all around. The lowest side room was 5 amah wide, and the middle one was 6 amah wide, and the third one was 7 amah wide. For he made narrow ledges around the outside of the house, so as not to lay hold on the walls of the house. And the house, when it was being built, was built with finished stone made ready beforehand, so that no hammer or chisel or any iron tool was heard in the house while it was being built. The doorway for the middle side room was on the right side of the house, and they went up by stairs to the middle side rooms, and from the middle to the third. So he built the house and completed it, and he paneled the house with beams and boards of cedar. And he built the side rooms of the structure against all the house, each 5 amah high, and they were fastened to the house with cedar beams. And the word of Yahuah came to Shelomoh, saying, This house which you are building, if you walk in my laws, and do my right rulings, and shall guard all my commands and walk in them, then I shall confirm my word with you, which I spoke to your father David, and shall dwell in the midst of the children of Israel, and not forsake my people Yisrael. So Shelomoh built the house and completed it, and he built the walls of the house inside with cedar boards. From the floor of the house to the ceiling he paneled them on the inside with wood, and covered the floor of the house with planks of cypress. And he built 20 amah at the rear of the house, from floor to the walls with cedar boards. And he built it inside as the speaking place, as the most Kodesh place. And the house was 40 amah, it is the heikel before it. And the cedar for the house inside was carved with ornaments and open flowers. All was cedar, not a stone was seen. And he prepared the speaking place in the midst of the house, to place the ark of the covenant of Yahuah there. And the front of the speaking place was 20 amah long, and 20 amah wide, and 20 amah high. And he overlaid it with refined gold, and overlaid the altar of cedar. And Shelomoh overlaid the inside of the house with refined gold, and made gold chains pass over the front of the speaking place, and overlaid it with gold. Thus he overlaid the entire house with gold, until the entire house was completed. And the entire altar that was by the speaking place he overlaid with gold. And inside the speaking place he made 2 cherubim of olive wood 10 amah high. And one wing of the cherub was 5 amah, and the other wing of the cherub 5 amah, 10 amah from the tip of one wing to the tip of the other. And the other cherub was 10 amah. Both cherubim were of the same size and shape. The height of one cherub was 10 amah, and so was the other cherub. And he placed the cherubim in the midst of the inner house. And they stretched out the wings of the cherubim, so that the wing of the one touched one wall, and the wing of the other cherub touched the other wall, and their wings touched each other in the middle of the room. And he overlaid the cherubim with gold. And he carved all the walls of the house all around, both inside and outside, with carved figures of cherubim and palm trees and open flowers. And he overlaid the floor of the house with gold inside and outside. And for the entrance of the speaking place he made doors of olive wood, the lintel, doorposts, a 5th. And the 2 doors were of olive wood, and he carved on them figures of cherubim and palm trees and open flowers, and overlaid them with gold. And he spread the gold on the cherubim and on the palm trees. And so he made doorposts for the door of the Hallel of olive wood, a 4th part. And the 2 doors were of cypress wood, the 2 leaves of the one folded, and 2 leaves of the other door folded. And he carved cherubim and palm trees and open flowers, and overlaid them with gold laid smoothly on the carved work. And he built the inner courtyard with 3 rows of hewn stone and a row of cedar beams. In the 4th year the foundation of the house of Yahweh was laid, in the month of Zi. And in the 11th year, in the month of Bul, the 8th month, the house was completed in all its matters and according to all its plans. Thus he built it for 7 years. Melakim 1, 1 Kings chapter 7. And Shelomoh built his house for 13 years, and he completed his entire house. And he built the house of the forest of Lebanon. It was 100 amah long, and 50 amah wide, and 30 amah high, with 4 rows of cedar columns and cedar beams on the columns. And it was paneled with cedar above the beams that were on 45 columns, 15 to a row. And there were windows with narrowed frames in 3 rows, and window was opposite window 3 times. And all the doorways and doorposts had square frames, and window was opposite window 3 times. And he made the porch of the columns 50 amah long and 30 amah wide. And the porch was in front of them, and the columns and the roof was in front of them. And he made a hall for the throne, the hall of right ruling, where he ruled. And it was paneled with cedar from floor to floor. And the house where he was to dwell, the other courtyard within the hall, was of like workmanship. And Shelomoh made a house like this hall for Pharaoh's daughter, whom he had taken. All these were of precious stone, hewn to size, sawed with a saw inside and out, from the foundation to the coping, and also on the outside to the great courtyard. And the foundation was of precious stone, large stones, stones of 10 amah, and stones of 8 amah. And above were precious stones hewn to size, and cedar wood. So the great courtyard all around had 3 rows of hewn stones, and a row of cedar beams, as was the inner courtyard of the house of Yahweh, and the porch of the house. And sovereign Shelomoh sent and brought Hiram from Zor. He was the son of a widow from the tribe of Naphtali, and his father was a man of Zor, a bronze worker. And he was filled with wisdom and understanding and skill in working with all kinds of bronze work. So he came to sovereign Shelomoh and did all his work. And he cast 2 columns of bronze, each one 18 amah high, and a line of 12 amah measured the circumference of each. And he made 2 capitals of cast bronze to put on the tops of the columns. The height of one capital was 5 amah, and the height of the other capital was 5 amah. A lattice network with wreaths of chainwork for the capitals which were on top of the columns, 7 chains for one capital and 7 for the other capital. And he made the columns and 2 rows of pomegranates above the network all around to cover the capitals that were on top, and so he did for the other capital. And the capitals that were on top of the columns in the hall were in the shape of lilies, 4 amah. And there were capitals above also on the 2 columns by the bulge which was next to the network. And the pomegranates were 200 in rows on each of the capitals all around. And he put up the columns by the porch of the Hallel. And he put up the column on the right and called its name Yachin. And he put up the column on the left and called its name Boaz. And on top of the columns was lily work. Thus the work of the columns was completed. And he made the sea of cast metal, 10 amah from one rim to the other, round all about, and 5 amah high, and a line of 30 amah measured around it. And below its rim were ornaments all around, 10 to an amah, all the way around the sea. The ornaments were cast in 2 rows when it was cast. It stood on 12 oxen, 3 facing north, and 3 facing west, and 3 facing south, and 3 facing east. And the sea was put upon them, and all their back parts were inward. And it was a tophah thick, and its rim was shaped like the rim of a cup, like a lily blossom. It held 2,000 baths. And he made 10 stands of bronze. Each stand was 4 amah long, and 4 amah wide, and 3 amah high. And this is how the stands were made. They had side panels, and the side panels were between frames. And on the side panels that were between the frames were lions, oxen, and cherubim, and a pedestal above on the frame. Below the lions and oxen were wreaths of beaten work. And each stand had 4 bronze wheels and axles of bronze, and its 4 feet had supports. Under the basin were cast supports beside each wreath. And its opening inside the crown at the top was 1 amah, and the opening was round like the work of the pedestal, 1½ amah. And also on the opening were engravings, but the side panels were square, not round. And the 4 wheels were under the side panels, and the axles of the wheels were joined to the stand, and the height of a wheel was 1½ amah. And the wheels were made like chariot wheels. Their axle pins and their rims and their spokes and their hubs were all cast. And there were 4 supports at the 4 corners of each stand. Its supports were of the stand itself. And on top of the stand, 1/2 amah in height, round all about. And on top of the stand, its flanges and its side panels were of the same. And on the plates of its flanges and on its side panels he engraved cherubim, lions, and palm trees, according to the clear space on each, with wreaths all around. He made the 10 stands like this. All of them were of 1 mold, 1 measure, and 1 shape. And he made 10 basins of bronze. Each basin contained 40 baths, and each basin was 4 amah, 1 basin on each of the 10 stands. And he put 5 stands on the right side of the house, and 5 on the left side of the house. And he put the sea on the right side of the house, to the east, facing the south. And Hiram made the pots and the shovels and the bowls, and Hiram completed doing all the work that he was to do for sovereign Shelomoh on the house of Yahuah, the 2 columns, and the bowl-shaped capitals that were on top of the columns, and the 2 networks covering the 2 bowl-shaped capitals which were on top of the columns, and the 400 pomegranates for the 2 networks, 2 rows of pomegranates for each network to cover the 2 bowl-shaped capitals that were on top of the columns, and the 10 stands, and the 10 basins on the stands, and the 1 sea, and 12 oxen under the sea, and the pots, and the shovels, and the bowls, and all the utensils which Hiram made for sovereign Shelomoh for the house of Yahuah were of polished bronze. The sovereign had them cast in clay in the district of Yarden, between Sukkot and Zarethan. And Shelomoh left out all the utensils because they were many, nor was the height of the bronze searched out. So Shelomoh made all the utensils for the house of Yahuah, the altar of gold, and the table of gold on which was the showbread, and the lampstands of refined gold, 5 on the right side and 5 on the left in front of the speaking place, with the flowers and the lamps and the snuffers of gold, and the basins and the snuffers and the bowls and the ladles and the fire holders of refined gold, and the hinges of gold, both for the doors of the inner house, the most Kodesh place, and for the doors of the house of the Hekel. Thus all the work which sovereign Shelomoh had done for the house of Yahuah was completed. And Shelomoh brought in the Kodesh items of his father David, the silver and the gold and the utensils, and he put them in the treasuries of the house of Yahuah.